Is the Glenn Beck program.
Well, hello, America, and welcome to the Glenn Beck program and to the Blaze. This is the network that you are building. Let me go up to the mosaic. These are some of the things that are happening today. This is a device that we use here internally that it allows us to see what our audience is interested in and what they're reading about. And I think tonight's show is going to be the #1 thing here very, very soon. The awesome adapter, your 12-gauge shotgun that makes it the ultimate survival rifle. Well, I got to read that one. The 28 greatest moments from the angry New York City protests where communism and capitalism met. Really phenomenal story. And what John McCain witnessed at the U.S.-Mexico border will astonish, well, it won't astonish you. It did astonish him. He saw somebody climb over that big fence. How did that happen? I want to kind of focus in a way the 28 greatest moments from an angry New York City protest where communism and capitalism met, because that is kind of the theme. Now, we're not covering that story tonight. We're going to make news ourselves on something else that we have now covered in 2 episodes, but this is really important. I don't think there's anything more important than what we're covering tonight. If we expect to be able to have a republic and have freedom anywhere in the world. This is going to sound like a crazy conspiracy theory tonight, but I'm going to show you the documentation. It is the progressive takeover of American schools, and I want you to know it is both sides. This is not an Obama thing. This is not a Democrat thing. This is a progressive thing. I saw a story earlier today in the Idaho Statesman, of all things, a GOP guy, representative of the, School Instruction Board or whatever it is up in Idaho. He's getting heat now from listeners and viewers of mine for his role in Common Core. And what he said is amazing, and this is really important that you understand that this is coming your way. The most recent misinformation was spread by Glenn Beck on an episode of his show earlier this month. What you're going to see tonight will feature no speculation, no conspiracies, no theories of mine, just the facts. When we get into theories of mine, I will completely let you know, and you're completely able to dismiss those theories if you'd like. But I want to show you the sources because it is hiding right underneath our nose, right in plain sight. And it has been in the works for years now. But it really took root after the passing of this. This is the stimulus package. This is all of the stuff that was in the stimulus package. So this is source #1, the government copy of the Congress's stimulus package passed. This is the executive summary of the education part of the stimulus package. This is the education summary. This is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. This is another government document that we're going to be quoting tonight. This is promoting grit, tenacity, and perseverance. This is from the U.S. Department of Education, right here. And we're going to be quoting this. This is from a company that is involved. This is off of their website. We'll explain this when we get to it. And a press release from Bill and Melinda Gates. So there is no opinion. These are the first sources. I urge you not to listen to me or anybody else. I urge you to go to the primary source. Now, let's start with the stimulus package, because this is the top priority after President Obama came into office in 2009, the stimulus package. And I remember when I first saw it, because this is the highlights. I remember saying to my staff in the kitchen in New York, and it was early in the morning, I said, "Who wrote this? This is not something you just threw together since November." And the president, to get this passed, went from hope to fear-mongering in the blink of an oath.
We're not moving quickly because we're trying to jam something down people's throats. We're moving quickly because we're told that if we don't move quickly, that the economy is going to keep on getting worse. We'll have another 2 or 3 or 4 million jobs lost this year.
Okay. They're not trying to jam anything down your throats. They're not trying to get anything by you. Okay? Now, I know I spent hours mocking the wasteful spending in this. It was easy. Millions of dollars on turtle tunnels. Remember that? Interactive dance software, ant research. It was almost too easy to mock this. And there was a lot of stuff that we did find. This is what led us to the Tides Foundation and the Apollo Alliance and to Van Jones, was this document. But we missed an awful lot, because we were all complaining about sidewalks to nowhere and studies on the effects of inequality among monkeys. I'm not kidding you, that's in here too. What we speculated at the time was, is he rushing? Does he putting all this through, not because he thought turtle tunnels would help the economy, but because they knew there was enough turtle tunnels and ant research in there for fodder for the idiots, including me, that you'd miss some really important stuff. Much more important goals that didn't want anybody to focus on. I said that at the time. Contained in here is a machine, and you don't want them to turn it on. Do you remember me saying that about 2009? There's a machine in here, and you do not want to see this thing turned on. They've turned it on. They've turned it on, and I know what the machine is, at least one part of it, and it is horrifying. In February 2009, the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, praised this stimulus bill for including, and I want to show it to you so you know that it's not a conspiracy theory. I'll show you the exact quote. This is what he's praising here. From the stimulus bill, the $5 billion in the American Recovery and Investment Act, which states $5 billion shall be available for education finance incentive grants, section blah, 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 of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Okay, got it? Now, Duncan described this one line as absolutely historic opportunity, and oh, it was. You and I would actually call this bribery. Race to the top gave the federal government billions of dollars to dangle in front of cash-starved local schools and saying, look, you know what, you're going to need to hire new teachers, right? All you have to do is just do a couple of things for us. Time of weakness and vulnerability, people signed up. Sign up. You can get all of this money. We'll help you do everything you want. And they signed. Now, of course, there's some strings attached. One of those strings was a provision that encouraged the bribed states to develop data systems for collecting large amounts of information on public school children. Oh, this one is harmless. If you don't recognize what the machine is, it's harmless. Remember I said they are building a machine? I don't know what it is, but they're building a machine right here. In the stimulus package, the state will establish a longitudinal data system that includes the elements described in Section 6014, blah, 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 the American Competes Act. What is that? I don't know. I have no idea what that is. No, just another piece to the machine. What is that? Well, race to the top, their executive summary, which is right here, the executive summary, has the use of data systems in it, right here. Data systems to support instruction, implementing a statewide longitudinal data system, and where are the pictures of it? I think the pictures of it, I think, are in this one. So, 4 years after the stimulus bill is passed, we have a system here that we don't even know what it is, because you don't have this one yet. This just came out. All 50 states either maintain or are capable of maintaining extensive databases on public schools. Now, these databases will track all kinds of personal information, including, now this I want to show you, This is the Promoting Grit, and this is coming from the Office of Educational Technology, the U.S. Department of Education. See it right here at the bottom, U.S. Department of Education. This just came out, I think, in February, right? Is that right? I don't have the date on it, but it just came out. February 14th, 2013, so it just came out after the election. Now, it includes right here MRI machines for the classroom. What? MRI machines? But it also goes on to talk about we're going to be collecting health histories, income information, how much does each family make, voting status for the family, blood types, blood test results, homework completion, hair color, eye color, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, also whether your kid was premature at birth or not, if they have any birthmarks, even bus stop arrival times. Oh man, this is actually all the stuff that they can collect on your kid. Where would you store all this stuff, really? Oh yeah, that's right. They're building that huge data storage facility in Utah. This is the company, one of the companies that are collecting data on your kids in school, and these are the things that they can collect on your kid legally. Now you might say, it's against the law. You can't just take information about my kid and sell it to some corporation. Oh no, yeah, they can, because they've bypassed Congress. They've basically rewritten federal privacy statutes. This is the groundwork for a national student database that will track your kid's personal information from preschool, and they say it will end at the age of 20. Now, at the time this bill was debated, I warned people, I warned the states, do not take the stimulus money. Watch.
And the best thing we can do is take control and push the government back, the federal government, and empower ourselves at the state level. But I'll tell you, they know, the federal government knows, and anybody who takes this stimulus money, you're going to have a hard time backing out of things, because that's one of the arguments that's going to be used. Well, wait a minute, hang on just a second. You just took all this stimulus money.
Okay,
now you're telling me that the federal regulations don't last?
I don't own the rights to my shows at Fox. I wish I did, but I don't. I know we talked about this stuff over and over and over again. The 1,073 pages of the Stimulus Act that was written by Van Jones and the Apollo Alliance, the Tides Foundation. It was never about saving or creating jobs. It was a ruse. It was never about, we got to pass this stuff because the economy is going to collapse. It was a radical, progressive agenda. And when I say progressive, there are liberals, and you'll meet one today, that voted for Barack Obama, thought I was a conspiracy theorist until he found this. Doesn't really want to be on this show. We don't agree. This is not a radical left agenda. This is a radical progressive agenda. I told you, warned, watch out for Tides, the unions, and anyone in the president's inner circle, like the corporations, including GE. More on their involvement on this in a second. But the inner circle wants the end of the capitalist system as we know it. Now, I know that sounds like crazy talk, but back when this desk was occupied by a guy in a wheelchair, FDR, there was another guy named Stuart Chase. Stuart Chase was big. He's a big progressive, and in his book that was printed in the 1940s is The Road We Are Traveling. The president has used quotes in speeches from this book. And he talks about business back as usual, question mark, in chapter 4, free enterprise into X. He said the free enterprise system, once we get out of this war, we're going to have to change a few things, and we're going to change capitalism and the free enterprise system into, he said, I don't want to call it communism or statism. I don't want to call it communism because it's not. It's something entirely different. He said, but it will appear this way. It will have a strong central government. Check. It will have a strong executive arm, in fact, stronger than the legislative or judicial branch. Done. Government control of banking, credit, and security. Done. Underwriting of food, housing, and medical. Done and done. Deficit spending to finance underwriting. Done. Abandoned goal for the managed currency. Done. Heavy taxation of estates and income of the wealthy. Done. Youth and people dedicated to government ideologies. This is where we're at tonight. Welcome to the new System X, the progressive future. You could call it state capitalism, and it is. We warned about this. We warned that, I remember saying on the show, China, man, doesn't sound like a good idea, and yet everybody says China is the future. China, a dictator, a one-party system, and that's what it is. I don't care if you call them GOP or the DNC, it's one party. It's why you vote for one and you get the same crap. Progressive party. And it tells people what to do. Just like the Chinese government. They pick your kid to be a gymnast. That's great. You're not going to see them for 3 years, but man, they're going to train and they're going to be great. And their future will be set when they are 4. What you will see tonight is pretty darn similar to that state capitalism. Microsoft, GE, and others mining our schools and the data of our families and our children, and nudge our children into the jobs the state deems most needed for the future. You see, System X is creating state capitalism, a government run by a single party in control of labor, media, EDU, and banking, joined by big business to further their mutual collective goals. This part is my theory. I want you to understand, I'm off the reservation. I'm on to my theory. Corporations need capital for investments, educated and trained workers, and global markets. The government wants power to control and plan. So to be able to merge these two, labor needs to be there to give the illusion of choice. Because the government and the labor needs to be against the corporations. But if these two are together, you need to feel like you're not being manipulated, like you have some sort of say in something. So labor in bed here, which is in bed here, gives you the illusion of a struggle. Medical will control you. Guns, if it take them off the street, will control you. The DHS will limit your travel and make sure that nobody is in the wrong place. Banks control the finance to finance the capital for the corporations. Education to train and to indoctrinate. The media to teach and use propaganda. The only thing left here is food. But if you give food to the global corporations, which are also involved here, they get food to control and they have a global market to sell to. Whoa, this is a perfect situation, isn't it? And you need intelligence gathering and giant corporations. These are just 2 we're going to name tonight. Now, one of the strings attached to this, to the race to the top, was something we've called, or something we've talked about before called Common Core. If you as a state wanted the education cash to help your teachers, to hire teachers, you just had to implement Common Core. It was part of the stimulus deal. Well, guess who's funneling millions of dollars into Common Core? Oh, that's right, GE. In fact, GE gave $18 million to Common Core, whose chief said, the GE Foundation is going deep in this work, and its commitment to improving public education for all students exactly is what it's going to take to seed real and lasting change, especially during these tough economic times. So through bribery, your cash-strapped state was forced to sign on to Common Core, which is being funded by at least one corporation. They give you the middle-fingered privacy laws, and your kids are poked and prodded and trained. Now, this part gets a little spooky. Remember I was talking to you about the MRIs? Let me go back to the same report again. This is from the Department of Education. This came out just in February. They have some disturbing plans. Because I'm looking at that MRI thing and I'm like, what is that? Plans for data mining on your children. Part of the student monitoring from kindergarten to graduation will include functional magnetic resonance imaging, MRIs, and, quote, other sensors. Sensors provide constant parallel streams of data and are used with data mining techniques and self-report measures to examine frustration, motivation, flow, confidence, boredom, and fatigue. Now, here are their tools for the data mining. I just want you to look right here. Put that, there they are. Now, what are these? Well, they include facial expression camera, posture, analysis seats. I love that one. They're going to analyze your kid's posture. They have a pressure mouse to see if they're stressed out. And who doesn't need a nice fashionable wireless skin conductance sensor that's strapped to your kid's wrist all the time? The report continues. Now, while it is impractical, if I may continue on this, while it is impractical to use MRI in the classroom, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation will point out that researchers are beginning to use multiple methods to explore how specific brain activity is correlated with other cognitive and affective indicators that are practical to measure in school settings. Oh, well, thank you, Bill and Melinda Gates, for that. It's going to help out the children so much. They're going to be so much better for it. Why don't you parents at the PTA get behind it? They also plan on tracking information on health care, family income, voting status, religious affiliation, extracurricular activity, along with literally hundreds of other attributes on this list. Now, I'd love to hear the explanation on how exactly this all raises the educational standards. They are using your kids as a guinea pig. And quite honestly, it is a glimpse of the disturbing mind of Cass Sunstein in a fantasy sequence. This is a progressive takeover of America's entire school system. And the event horizon on this is so short because they're so far ahead. If you don't gather now as a public and act now in your local and statewide educational systems, you will not be able to stop this. This is a progressive bonanza. And if it's allowed to be in our schools in any form and become the Common Core of America's next generation, it will destroy America and the system of freedom as we know it. We will be lost, and the corporation in bed with the government will be king. I'm not an anti-corporation guy. Where's the left that hates the corporation? I don't. I don't hate the corporation. I'm telling you, the corporations and the government are in bed together, and this is evil stuff. They've got a near 4-year head start. You have to stand up right now, but you get prepared because there will be resistance. You will be called a conspiracy theorist. Do not take my word for it. Go to the government sources. I've shown you every step of the way. Don't take my word for it. This is where the research is found. My team and I will testify to you now. It's only worse when you read it all yourself from the horse's mouth. Don't take it from me. It's much worse. We had a hard time picking from all of this stuff what to share with you. The other thing you're going to be told is that the ship has sailed and it's gone. You can't do anything about it. Get on board. It's too late. No, it's not. No, it's not. If you don't stop it, you have no privacy at all. The data points of collection are horrifying in its completeness, but you have to move. We know. Oh boy, is this spooky stuff. He gave $1 million to the National PTA to mobilize parents for Common Core standards. This guy benefits from it, and he's going to tell parents they're spending $1 million to indoctrinate parents on the PTA. You are going to be up against a war you are against every power player in the world, but your child is at stake. It says in this press release, a new 3-year effort to mobilize parents beginning with Common Core state standards. This is the architect of Common Core, right here. His name is David Cohen. Do we have him? There he is. He's pulling in, by the way, $750,000 a year to push a curriculum that our kids are going to have starting in the next 12 to 18 months. It bashes capitalism as everyone for themselves and promotes communism as everyone helping everybody else. He's now the president of the College Board. Okay, so what? Well, the College Board now will use the Common Core standards to write the SAT test. His education secretary under Obama, Arne Duncan, leading the charge to implement this. But don't think that it's only the progressives on the left. Arne Duncan called criticisms of Common Core a conspiracy. How Cass Sunstein of him. And to ease fears, he says, hey, the GOP is in on this too. Really? Oh, yes, they are. But the usual suspects, Chris Christie, Bill Haslam, he's another progressive Republican we'll talk about in the coming days, and the establishment's new favorite hopeful for 2016, Jeb Bush. Oh, he's not only written support for Common Core standards, but back in 2012, he helped lead a conference on Common Core standards and led a panel discussion with David Coleman, and also on the same panel with Bob Corcoran, president and chairman of the GE Foundation, which gave over $33 million last year to help support Common Core. And GE is happy to promote Jeb Bush on their television station. Wow, I wonder if Comcast will change things. You think it's a coincidence that GE has been pushing Jeb Bush and saying he's the guy? I mean, when was the last time you heard anybody with a conservative bone left in their body say, you know what, if we just had Jeb Bush as our candidate, we'd be fine? Nobody says that except the people on television, because the people on television are run by the progressives. I'm telling you, I've worked at all of them. I know. This is a fight that requires every one of us. Tonight we will begin the long fight to stop the progressive, both left and right, the GOP and the Democrats, to save our children. Stop the takeover of America's schools by the government and corporations. How can we not all join on that? What you can do, and meet some people who are speaking out and risking a lot to be here. Next. All right, I want you to meet a few people here. Gary Thompson, he's a doctor. He's a director of the Clinical Training Center at the Early Life Child Psychology and Education Center. Activist and retired teacher, Lisa Harris. And returning to the show, Emmett McGroarty. He is an attorney with the American Principles Project. So let me start, and I'd like to just have an open discussion like we've had before here on the program on Common Core. And that is the worst thing that you're finding about the data mining. You actually thought this was a conspiracy theory.
I did. I really did. In fact,
Yeah.
I thought all of your shows were conspiracy theories.
Right.
I've never watched one.
Right, okay. So when you heard about this, you're like, oh, geez, another Glenn Beck conspiracy, but then you start looking into it.
I looked at the exact documents that you discussed in full during your monologue.
And?
It was scary. Wasn't a conspiracy theory at all.
And am I overstating it? Because I think this is the scariest thing we have found yet. This is like some really spooky sci-fi Gattaca kind of thing, isn't it?
It's pretty freaky.
Yeah. Worst thing? Anybody want to go on this before we start? Or, I mean, let's go here. Why are they data mining like this? Make the case, because people say, oh, why are they doing that? They're just trying to help education get a little better. That's what they're doing.
I think you hit the nail on the head in your monologue. This is about a progressive agenda, which at the root of it means we're talking about people who don't have faith in the American people. They don't have faith in the American people to lead their own lives, make their own decisions. So why do you need to do this? Well, you need to manage society. You need to manage education. You need to manage the workforce.
And really, I mean, a really benign example of this that's already there, and it's very simple, is the PSATs. To where you take a PSAT and you take it early and you're like, oh, you know what, that kid we should watch that kid. And so they start getting letters from the good universities and everything else early, and so you're watching it. This is something that is really kind of insidious. I mean, right at the beginning, they're evaluating and they're saying, you're a cog, you're over here. Ooh, you might be this designer, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
What I see is, instead of children being encouraged to excel to the highest that they can, they're putting them in a place to where, instead of it's a child choosing a career and going after their interest, they're letting the career choose the child, or the workforce choose the child, and tracking them all along the way to slot them into whatever workforce needs are.
Okay, so are you three convinced that that's really what this is? That this is just to feed the beast of what society needs as a collective, to train the kids the best way and slot them into the best things? Is that what this is?
I don't know the end game, but you've had some great comments on it.
That's true, but when you talk about slotting children in, you know, in a managed society, managed economy, you also concern yourself with how they're going to manage their interrelations with other people. That becomes part of the game. Well, we need worker bees, we need cogs in the machine, and that's going to be a different personality type, for instance, than your entrepreneur.
Okay, so what is the, I think there's a double standard here. You know, we're all supposed to be born equal and then make our own way and have an equal chance, but I mean, is that the double standard? Is that, I mean, because it seems to me that there's a double standard that you don't really get an equal chance.
You're born free, and in your life it's like an artist with a canvas. That's your canvas, and you're there to make that masterpiece, and it should be you doing it, not the state.
What is predictive testing?
Well, in essence, it's neuropsychological testing is what the school districts are proposing to do throughout the country. There's a reason why my wife and I don't have many friends in our small Utah town, because we've tested half the community's children. And the reason we don't have friends is because we have access to extensive data about these children and their families, and you know, we have to be subjected to strict privacy laws, and with this information comes power, and to keep from people like us from abusing that power, we are subjected to these strict privacy laws, as well as you know, state governing laws in regards to being clinical psychologist. So it's the power differential, and so we have to back off from these families. When you take this type of information and you put it in the hands of someone who is not trained, you're having kindergarten teachers and second grade teachers basically performing neuropsychological examinations, and they're not trained with the privacy issues, they're not trained with interpreting results.
Like, what can you interpret from this information? I mean, what they show me something that you could gather the information and you could interpret one thing, but it actually means something else. Can you give me a kind of an example? I mean, like, what is, I'm a teacher, what am I going to see? What kind of information am I going to see that I could take and I could use it against? I'm trying to play the devil's advocate here on, because people are going to say, oh, guys, you're just overreacting. It's no big deal.
After a 45-page evaluation of this, it is just so strong in terms of its predictive abilities, in terms of personality, cognitive styles, behavioral styles. I can.
So is this kind of like almost like Minority Report, to where they're saying predictive testing means I can say pretty much what you are going to do in life, so I categorize you as worth it or not worth it right now?
We're getting to that point in clinical psychology and neurology and medicine, but we are truly getting to that point where we can predict in that manner.
Okay, back in a minute.
Students have a group of supporters such as teachers, principals, counselors, and parents. But how do they all collaborate with each other? How does the student communicate with them? And how do they manage the goals and progress of not just one student, but perhaps 20, 30, and even hundreds of students? At eScholar, we know that data is essential to personalize education. And when we say data, we don't just mean student assessment scores. We mean everything: attendance, discipline, course, teacher, interventions, and more. How can we use all this data easily? How can we use it to help students? Introducing eScholar MyTrack. MyTrack leverages all kinds of education data in order to personalize education for every individual student. With MyTrack, learners have their own individual goals, and they get recommended strategies on how to achieve them.
Emmett, this all sounds great. What's the problem with that? I go into a counselor and he's got all kinds of stuff. He's just tracking me for a long time. He's got all this stuff. It's going to be helpful.
You and your parent, you come in and sit down, and I'm the counselor, and I have reams of data on you and studies, and the balance of power has shifted. I'm the one telling you what's good for your child and what your child is good at and what your child's future looks like. And this is amazingly intimidating.
The balance of power that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's the exact difference of our clinic's motto. Our clinic's motto is helping parents find answers. In that situation, you will have a school personnel telling people.
Yeah. Now, you have found that in your state, right?
Right.
Teachers this is already implemented? Or it's coming, beginning?
The platform is there.
Okay. And teachers, this is wildly dangerous. Teachers can actually kind of change some of the data or add to the data.
Right. The testing in Alabama, we did not join the consortium of the two assessment companies that received stimulus money to develop the test. We're going with another corporation, and they have components that do the psychological and attitudinal assessments on child's behavior, and there is a rating scale where the teacher can actually go in and give input based on their observations of the child.
Okay. Imagine, I mean, we've already seen it. Imagine just based on politics. I want to destroy that person's child or that child because they're wearing an Obama shirt or they're wearing a Romney shirt. I mean, we've seen the video of the teachers targeting children on both sides.
Right.
Imagine what could happen to that child's life because of political view, which is included in the data. Why do we need to know the, I mean, why do they need to know the parents' political views? Any religious views? Any?
I have no idea.
Okay. I think this, out of everything that I've covered, I think this is the most evil thing I have seen yet. Out of everything that we have found, this is worse than any global warming nonsense. This is a clear and present danger, and it is happening right now. How can we get out of this?
The way to get out of this is action in the state houses, and that means your viewers, your listeners, have to call up their representatives, their senators in their state houses and demand that they get out of the Common Core, demand that they institute robust privacy laws.
But they will do what your state did. I mean, our state. We have the GOP now fighting the liberty-loving people, fighting every step of the way. Oh, no, you're right. We got rid of Common Core, but we have C-scope. Now the GOP is involved in protecting that here in Texas. If our state has GOP progressives that are guarding it, I mean, what do other states? You don't have a chance.
I think what we're seeing, though, I think this is a big opportunity for America. This is the opportunity for a citizen-led movement to take back our liberties, to get back to the idea of citizen-directed government. And I think we can win on this issue, on these issues, and rededicate America to that type of government.
What are people saying, because you're out in the community and you're part of it all, what are people saying when they find out? Because I can't believe that this is not Republican Democrat. This is every American should be involved in this one.
I'll tell you what's happened in Alabama, Indiana. Today in Oklahoma there was a rally at the State House on these issues, led by a 9/12 person, I might add.
Great.
And this is what's happening. They're going to their elected leaders and they're demanding that they get out. And a lot of these elected leaders are, a lot of them are scaredy cats. And they push back. Parents are coming back, citizens are coming back in greater numbers,
okay,
with more fervor, demanding to get out.
Hold on, hold that thought. Back in a minute. We were just talking about our kids won't see the inside of a public school. Pull your kids, but that doesn't help really, because, I mean, it helps our kids right now, but it doesn't help the long run because you lose the nation. Help me with two things. We have about 2 minutes. What should people expect when they start this fight? What is going to be thrown at them? And what do they do first?
They're going to hear that there's misinformation out there, and they'll hear, well, we're doing this for the children. This is for the children, for better education. So, but what they need to do is, in many of the states now, there's activist groups that are pushing legislation and talking to their legislators. That's what they need to do. We need to get back to the idea of citizen-directed government. Local. Yeah, calling up your legislator and say, what are you doing to get us out of this?
What we have to do is, this has happened so stealthily that most of the public has never heard of it, doesn't know what it is. These activist groups have to educate the public, and the public has to contact their local state legislators and say, we want this gone.
They will say, you watch, because it's happened in Texas, we're going to get rid of one, but they'll slip another one in under a different name. And so you have to be vigilant, and really the power has to be returned to the people.
And protect your medical records. By all costs, by all means, protect your medical records. Get straight answers from your schools, your school districts, your state legislatures, because where it sits right now, I'm confused, and I'm a professional in the field and an activist, and I have no idea.
It is, I can't emphasize enough, and I said this on the radio today, this one's for the whole ball of wax. There's a lot of things that we're fighting, but this one, I mean, GE said it best. For lasting change, this has to be done. That's what this is about. You lose control of your information, your life. You lose control of your children and what's best for them, and they lose control of their liberty and their free agency, their ability to choose. People are going to say it's a conspiracy theory and to disregard it. I beg you, do not take my word for it. Don't take anybody else's word for it. Read the documents themselves from the federal government. They are far more horrifying than we have talked about on the program. Believe me. Thanks. We'll meet again and talk some more about it. Follow it all at The Blaze. Back in a minute.
Thank you.
Well, I will tell you that between this and the intelligence, artificial intelligence that is coming, it's a brave new world, gang. There is a Facebook page, Parents and Educators Against the Common Core Standards. Check it out and start networking with people. Get up to speed. From New York. Good night, America.